Hello everyone, welcome to the Redmen TV and an incredibly impromptu version of Journal Insight and indeed Daily News Show. My name is Dan Clubb. I'm delighted to be joined by the wonderful man of many talents that is Paul Gorst. Paul, my friend, are we good?
Very good, yeah. We had some lovely grub last night, didn't we? We had a night to remember and feeling fresh. Here we are now at the Nissan Stadium, the venue of the 2002 World Cup final where Ronaldo wants to grace fans with his presence and a couple of goals. So let's hope Hugo Ekitike can do likewise tonight.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, mate. Absolutely. Yeah, we are literally an hour and 40 odd ahead of kick-off, but about 40 minutes ago, Liverpool confirmed the sale of Luis Diaz. Now, it feels to me, I've asked a few people this week about sort of the price tag and evaluation Liverpool once had on Diaz's head. They've come down quite significantly from that. Do you think that's been very sort of player-driven? Because now we're hearing stories about contract offers were made, Diaz obviously rejected them. Diaz felt as though his heart was set on leaving Liverpool and making that happen however he could. So Liverpool probably looked at it and went, keeping a relatively unhappy Diaz or banking that amount of money. It was a bit of a no-brainer.
Yeah, I think the 100 million figure was almost like Saudi Arabia tax, if you like, because there was talk of Al Hilal were willing to pay that for Bruno Fernandes, who's 2 years older than Diaz. So that was almost like a Liverpool pricing Saudi Arabian clubs almost out of it, or, you know, saying if you give us an incredible amount of money, then we'll think twice about selling a player who at the time Liverpool didn't really want to lose, and they still don't really. But I think given his determination to leave, you know, we spoke in June about his agency talking to clubs. Barcelona obviously thought that they might have had a fighting chance. They approached Liverpool, they got rejected in June. Bayern approached them and were initially rebuffed, but they've come back strong. They've made an offer, it's been rejected. They've upped it by, was it 7 or 8 million? And I think Liverpool feel that getting 65 million for a player who's 28, you know, 2 years left on his deal, possibly not necessarily on the way in this season, but, you know, it'd be difficult to repeat what he's just done on the back of last season. I think they feel that, you know, it's an incredible amount of money to get for someone who already wants to leave. So I mean, the fee is really good. You know, a 28-year-old player who Liverpool have had probably the best years of his career now, unless he goes on and you know, be spectacular at Bayern Munich, but we'll wait and see. But I think for me now, there's got to be a contingency plan in place. You know, who might that be? I'm sure we'll come on to Alex Isak, but on the face of it, selling the player makes sense from a financial point of view. But I think there has to be a backup plan now in terms of how they go and replace that shortfall of goals and assists.
Well, yeah, I was going to ask you about that because it looks as though Liverpool's plan, certainly at the moment, this could change obviously as transfers often do in a blink of an eye, but it feels as though from a lot of the noises that we're hearing, obviously they're entrusting Cody Gakpo with a lot of that responsibility because he's been excellent pretty much since he arrived at the football club, and this probably does mean more minutes for him whether we do sign someone or not to play in that position. But Rio Ngamoa, like all eyes seems to return to Rio Ngamoa, and for all the right reasons as well, because he has been excellent. I've watched him since he joined the football club at 18s level. Really, really impressed every time I watch him. But to me, he's still so young. He's still so raw. And I know age is just a number. And if you're talented enough, if you're good enough, you know, so be it. But I don't know, Paul, it feels like a huge risk to replace a 28-year-old Luis Diaz with all the experience and all the quality that he had to simply go to Rio Ngamoa, we're going to back you, we trust you. That feels a gamble to me.
It does, yeah, definitely. And I don't necessarily think that his progress makes Liverpool relaxed about selling Diaz. I don't think there's any sort of idea that Ngamoa is going to immediately replace Diaz in the squad in terms of rotating with Cody Gakpo. Obviously, it's a chance for Gakpo to step up in responsibility, really nail down that left side position as his own and be first choice there. When wasn't necessarily that last year, was he? You know, they rotated a lot, those two players. So, you know, it's probably good news for Ngamoa, and I think he will get a bit more of a look in this coming season. You know, a few more chances in cup games and maybe even the odd appearance in the Premier League. But I still think there is a big player leaving Liverpool today in Luis Diaz, so there has to be a plan to, you know, replace him in some way. It doesn't necessarily have to be a like for like left wing forward or however you want to describe him, but they have to get some more sort of attacking talents through the door to, like I say, you know, what did he get last season? 17 goals in all competitions, yeah. 13 in the Premier League.
Full of assists to go with it.
Yeah, led the line for much of it, didn't he? As the number 9 when Jota was injured and Darwin was sort of in and out. So it's a big player leaving Liverpool, and they're getting a good fee for him. But it's how you sort of reinvest that now.
Yeah, I'm a huge Ingamoa fan, as everyone will know, but I think to ask him to step up and to sort of replace those sort of minutes just feels far-fetched to me. And as you rightly say, it might mean more opportunities for him, but they're asking a hell of a lot of a kid so young with so little experience at first-team level to do that. So, yeah, we'll touch on who the replacement could be, because whilst they may not look at that blockbuster left winger to come in and replace Diaz, they might do something else. Alexander Isak remains at the forefront of Liverpool's transfer speculation. So it feels like a waiting game. We're obviously out here on tour. I think a lot of the outgoings are dependent on when we get back. We've seen some Tyler Morton rumours earlier on today and stuff like that. Obviously Harvey Elliott's future remains undecided. It feels as though Liverpool might just be sort of keeping their powder dry on Isak until something, I don't know, come the weekend, maybe something develops on that one.
Yeah, possibly. It was interesting that Richard Hughes flew over to Hong Kong and was with the contingent in Japan, and he's now left, I understand. So not too sure what that trip was about. Might have just been entirely innocent, but there was some sort of mischief two and two together, that Newcastle are also in the Far East. They were in Singapore, they're now in Korea, maybe face-to-face talks in a much more agreeable time zone. But I think a lot of supporters are just waiting now to see what the latest development is going to be with Alex Isak. At the moment, it's still a Newcastle story. He's agitating to leave. He's made that clear, he's communicated it. Newcastle are hugely reluctant to lose him. Any potential deal will be a British record transfer fee, but for me, people at Liverpool haven't necessarily said outright that Isak, they're going to make a play for Isak. But my question would be, why is Isak so determined to leave if he hasn't got a suitor lined up? And who else would it be if not Liverpool?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Liverpool had brought in a striker this week, 17-year-old Will Wright from Salford. It's been an interesting deal, actually. I'm reticent to call it a saga with somebody of that age, but there has been a little bit of back and two, because Liverpool, seemingly very in a few weeks ago, backed away when Arsenal came to the table with money that Liverpool didn't feel comfortable matching, I think it's fair to say, all of a sudden. And I think it's sort of player-driven, this one as well. Will Wright seemingly had his heart set on a move to Liverpool, and that's what's happened. This is, to me, Liverpool have done this a lot recently, not for a little while actually, like Ben Doak comes in, obviously Bobby Clark comes in, going out and finding some prodigious young talent and strengthening the academy with it.
Yeah, I think that's been it's probably always been a strategy, but certainly in the last sort of 5 years or so, it's been a very concerted effort from Liverpool to get the best young British players. I think the changing of the European Union rules at the start of 2020, was it, or maybe start of 2021, I think that has sort of sharpened the focus on British Isles. So, you look at who they brought in since that time, and they've got, the likes of Kate Gordon, Ben Doak, Stefan Bajcetic was almost like the last one from foreign soil. So, it's definitely a strategy for Liverpool. He might make it, he might not. There's a lot of work to be done at that level, but certainly Liverpool feel as though he is, a really exciting young player. Was it 220,000, something along those lines, which is, really good fee at that level, and suggest for Salford. So, we'll see what happens with him when if he comes to the academy, and is he going to be straight into the 21s? We'll see, but and Rio Ingamoa, of course, you see what strides he's made in 12 months. The sort of pathways there. If you show that you're good enough, you will come on these tours and get a chance to strut your stuff in front of the manager or the head coach. Yeah,
absolutely. It'd be interesting to see what it means for Jayden Danns as well in terms of loans and stuff like that, because obviously a couple of years older than young Will Wright. I do think this 21's needed a goal scorer, an out-and-out centre-forward and a focal point, and they've gone and got that, whatever it means for his first-team prospects, of course. Just finally, we are, of course, outside the Nissan Stadium. We are speaking ahead of the game, so anything that happens major during the game, it wasn't our fault. We haven't spoken about it. Who are you most looking forward to watching? And I guess the main question, really, aside from that one, is the Wataru Endo factor. Yeah. That's going to be enormous in there.
Yeah, Japan captain, isn't he? And I'm sure a lot of Liverpool supporters in this area of the world were delighted when he said a few months back that he wasn't going to be leaving. So, they were going to get a chance to see him in the flesh. And someone was speaking to me about Endo yesterday, and they were saying how, the players had an afternoon off, and they were all sort of looking at tourist things to do in the afternoon, and they were all very excited because they don't get much time off. And Endo was meeting up with his family, but he still had an appearance to do at the partnerships thing, and it took longer than perhaps he might have hoped, but he was very patient with it, very nice and polite as he is, and he earned loads of praise for basically how he was on the afternoon. So he's going to get a huge reception here today. But in terms of who I'm looking forward to see, probably Florian Wirtz again. That was really interesting 45 minutes on Saturday, wasn't it, against Milan? You could see flashes of quality. And Hugo Ekitike, just because I haven't seen a whole lot on him. So we'll get to see what he's like in the flesh tonight.
Loves a shiny new toy, Paul Gorst. Loves a shiny new toy. And thank you so much, mate, Tom, man. Really appreciate it. Everybody else, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Take care. I'll see you in a bit.